Good afternoon. It's just a pleasure to be here on behalf of T-Mobile, not just as a sponsor, but as a son, as a husband, and also as a person who's a member of the African diaspora. I have had a wonderful opportunity today to try out my very bad French on our sisters here from Cameroon and from Senegal. Bienvenue, bienvenue. I could regale you on all the things that T-Mobile is doing in our communities, but that would be a sales pitch. What I'm here today is to echo the sentiment about the 60-year anniversary of the passage of the Civil Rights Act. We're at a critical time in our history that feels a lot like the 1960s and in some ways the 1860s. And it's organizations like the Black Women's Roundtable and my sister Melanie Campbell who are trying to fight back against these forces that are trying to pull us back. And so thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. And I look forward to being on a panel later this afternoon to talk about some of these issues. God bless you all.
Thank you again, Clint. We want to also recognize our Sister Unite level sponsors, Airbnb, and Oxfam for America. We want to recognize our ACT level sponsors, American Federation of Teachers, and Values Partnerships. And last, but certainly not least, our sister friend level sponsor, Charter Communications. Thank you so very much. So I've done my role here, and I think I'm supposed to bring on our host who will follow up to bring up the first roundtable, and that's our sister Solange Benton, who is the Executive Director of the Florida Coalition on Black Civic Participation and convener of the Florida Black Women's Roundtable. She also sits on the board of the National Coalition. And before I get myself in real trouble, are there any board members for the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation in the room? If you are, please stand. Thank you. I work for the board. All right, Solange, it's yours.
Let's give it up for Melanie Campbell one more time. The baddest sister. So many great leaders started right here in this space because of Melanie Campbell. They're doing a lot of work. So many started out. You know some LaTasha Browns. You know some Sheena Meads. You know some Black Youth. You know so many people came through these doors, sat at these tables. And so many, I ain't gonna start calling names, but there's so many, and they're doing some great, wonderful things. I know y'all seen Tamika, y'all seen some other folks yesterday, but guess what, we got a lot of more young people. Let's give it up for our young people in the house. I was sitting back there with the young people early today when the other panelists came on, and they were just so inspired. They are so inspired, and they're ready to take this mic, and they're ready to take this stage. And I told them, I encourage you will be on the stage one day, because I'm old. They said, I'm transferring, and people don't believe it, but I keep telling them this time. I've been in this for a long time. I may look young, but I'm not. And I'm ready to be the cheerleader, the coach on the sideline, and we can still get the ring together, because y'all know people that follow the Super Bowl, regardless if you're on the bench or not, whatever team, you're going to get that ring. So the coach going to get the ring, the bench going to get the ring, and the ones that's running that ball. So we thank you, Melanie, for your leadership. We thank you for everything that you do. Words cannot express. God has called you for a time such as this. And I just want to do one point, because I got the mic, because was everybody in here about that, how we got that victory? Was that divine purpose? Like yesterday, we was at the Supreme Court, black women marching to the Supreme Court, letting the Supreme Court know there's a higher court than yours. If spiritual people, if you get that. And guess what? God showed up. He showed up for us yesterday. He showed up for us today. He showed up for Fannie. He showed up for Atlanta. He showed up for black women. That's a sign. Sometimes we got to pay attention to the signs, honey, to let us know God will send us a sign that it's going to be all right. And that's one of the signs. So I'm going to get back onto the program. So right now we're going to have a panel, and we're going to call up, is Rachel here? Oh, good, Rachel. I see. We're going to call up Rachel, our partner, Actum, and so we have, come on, Rachel. And this panel is going to be, this power table is going to be diversity, equity, inclusion, media, philanthropists, and leadership roundtable. So this bad sister right here, and don't she look gorgeous? Don't she look gorgeous? I love my sisters, honey. I love them. So she's going to be moderating this panel, and we're going to be calling up our panel, our fabulous sister, Dee Marshall. Dee been on this, there she comes. Dee is a bad sister, honey, and she, not only does she walk the walk, she talk the talk. She's a CEO, managing partner, diverse and engaged. Then we gotta have our bad sister that did everybody know from the White House to the boardroom to the streets, Minyon Moore. We actually come up, partner Dewey Square and co-founder of Power Rising. And we're gonna ask our sister Laura Murphy, president of Laura Murphy's and Associate. And Laverne Chatman, my sister in the fight, our co-convener for Virginia Black Women's Roundtable. Come on, because we understand, because Black Women Roundtable don't do it just on election time. We do it 365 days in our community, because we know how important that they are. Thank you, ladies. Take it. Sit anywhere you like. Sit. Give them one more hand as they come to the stage. We can do better than that. These are some black sisters. These are your sisters. Come on. Let them feel some love. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Please continue to enjoy your lunch. This is such an amazing, amazing room to be in. My name is Rachel Noerdlinger, and I am grateful and honored to stand before you today with these women. My goodness, this is a power panel of people that have been doing diversity, equity, and inclusion before there was even a term for it. So just briefly, I am the only black female partner at a global public strategy company, and have been working in the fields of communication strategy, and have been in the movement and in the formation of narratives and messaging around some of the most important and historic civil rights cases and DEI cases of our time. Just yesterday, Melanie Campbell, who we are so grateful for convening this incredible 3 days, 4 days, just yesterday, Melanie Campbell had a rally at the Supreme Court with other organizations. And there was a segment in that rally around DEI. And Arian Simone from the Fearless Fund spoke. And the significance of her speaking yesterday in front of the Supreme Court is because if the case around the Fearless Fund gets to the Supreme Court, DEI will be illegal as we know it. I don't know if all of you know what the Fearless Fund case is, but in short, two women that co-founded a fund, the Fearless Fund and the Fearless Foundation, they give grants to women of color across the country. Well, the architect, the man that was responsible for the campaign around gutting affirmative action, a man named Edward Bloom, he started a campaign and sued these women, the Fearless Funds, using the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and a statute in it around fairness in contracts. And as you know, the Civil Rights Act was for freed slaves. We had been freed from slavery. It was supposed to be the defining body that would help to empower us. So now it's being used against us across the country. Folks are being sued left and right. All the universities in Florida have banned DEI, have gutted DEI departments. We saw what happened at Harvard. We have Elon Musk. We have Bill Ackman. We have Donald Trump. We have a lot of folks with deep, deep pockets that are coming after DEI. So here we are today. It's a political season, and we have some of the architects and top minds in politics, in philanthropy, in communications, in advocacy are here in this session. And it's in a time when we're in a state of emergency. And so the question before us today is, what are we doing and where do we go in this current attack against DEI? You know, after George Floyd, billions of dollars was directed at DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Everybody from Wall Street to Silicon Valley was screaming Black Lives Matter. And a lot of companies were doing it to mitigate reputational risk. It was a drive-by. It was done to check a box. So now here we are, and they're slashing all the programs, all the diversity officers are being cut. There's still many people that are doing the work. Tanya Lombard was mentioned earlier. Tanya Lombard has been doing DEI as well before there was even a term for it in her role at a Fortune 10 company. But we have a lot of work to do, ladies. So I will stop talking and pose, I guess, honestly, my first question to Minyon Moore, because Minyon has paved the way for a lot of these conversations. Minyon has been working tirelessly in so many capacities to open doors around inclusion for not just Black folks, for women, for people of all different likes. We have an international audience today. And across the globe, they know who Minyon Moore is because of her work to pave the way for us in politics. And she's now the chair of the DNC, like the DNC, like the Presidential Nominating Convention. This sister right here. So I guess my question to you, Minyon, is maybe for you to just talk a second, and I would just pose to you, just how important is the issue of DEI in the wake of all these attacks from the other side right now? With you chairing the convention, how much of an important part of your strategy is DEI to you? Is it a part of the conversation?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you. Where's Melanie? I can't see because of the lights, but I wanted to thank Melanie because, she's doing an interview, of course. But I do want to just publicly thank Melanie for all of her hard work. A lot of times you don't see some of the things that she does do behind the scenes. And I do want to let her friends know, and the people that work so hard on behalf of her organization. Melanie was one of the architects of getting us the first vice president. And she deserves a lot of credit for that. And those are the things you don't see her doing. But I think in answer to the question, first of all, I don't even use the term DEI because, as I look at language, and language has changed over the last 10 years. First it was diversity, now it's DEI. At one time it was inclusion. And to me, it's just a value system and a philosophy. And so when we decided to look at our spend at the Democratic National Convention, we made it a point to say that, one, we will have diverse vendors, people that look like us, but two, we would spend 40% of our dollars with diverse communities, especially in Chicago. And we are actually meeting that mark because it is very important to us. And one of the things I said to Rachel and Tanya on the way over here is you have to make a connection to these corporations, to their state and local elected officials, and to the community. I'm telling you, if we were not spending in the Chicago community, we would hear from them. If the corporations were not doing what they should be doing inside, we would hear from them. But we have a governor, we have a mayor, we have 2 senators who believe in the power of diversity. They believe, and it's not to me just about what you spend, it's about what we spend. We spend too much money in these corporations for this to even be a conversation. And we got to keep in mind that our consumer power is far bigger than the language. And if we can't start looking at the data and really holding people accountable, and it starts with a lot of the work that each of you are doing in your backyards. I mean, there is no way, I am here to tell you, there is no way Minyon Moore could, in fact, get away with not having a diverse staff, which I wouldn't anyway, because I fundamentally believe that we should have diversity in this country, and I believe that we should spend our dollars in communities that support us. We have to stop looking at ourselves like we're just a constituent. Not only are we a constituent, we're a voter, and we are a consumer, and we spend dollars, we spend money, we spend hardcore money. Ladies, how much y'all been shopping? I saw Sister Barbara with her new outfit on. I mean, we spend money, and you got to equate that, and we should not feel like we're in a crouch position. Now, Laura can tell you about all the 37 lawsuits that's going around the country, and the thing I will end with is we have to get smart about this and not defensive, because what they do is they will go to court on you before you can blink, and that gets everybody fearful. You're talking about a fearless fund. We're acting like this is not something we are entitled to, and so we have to start pushing back a little bit, and I would love for people to make the distinction between what happened at the Supreme Court and what's happening in these corporations. The Supreme Court decision was about education. The Republicans, God bless, turned it into DEI, and we let them do it, and it's up to us to change the mindset and the tone.
Ooh, okay. They are out messaging us, is what Minyon is saying, and we need to have a strategy. Why don't we pass the mic right to you, Lauren? Let's hear a little bit about the litigation is the new tool. These deep pockets, they're going to keep suing. In a minute, they're going to sue HBCUs, and we're not going to be able to have them. So what's happening?
So first, I have to say thank you to Melanie Campbell, and thank you to all of you for organizing and putting us in the halls of power and in a position where our voices as Black women are being heard. So I just have to say thank you. And to follow up on what my sister Minyon has said, you know, I also have a little problem with diversity, equity, and inclusion, because oftentimes in corporations, that only is in the human resource function. It doesn't control whether or not, you know, they are issuing products that discriminate against Black people. It doesn't control whether or not a bank is going to put branches in Black communities. And so what we need to do in terms of thinking about reframing, Rachel, the conversation on our terms is that we have to insist that our civil rights laws are enforced. And the Supreme Court decision in the Harvard case last June did not invalidate the dozens of civil rights laws that are still on the books, the equal employment law, the voting rights law, even though voting rights have been weakened, pregnancy discrimination, laws that protect age discrimination. So we have to make sure that we hold corporations accountable to upholding civil rights. And just to give you a little tiny background of what I do, for 17 years, I was the first woman, the first African-American, and longest-serving head of the lobbying operation for the ACLU. And in that capacity, thank you, in that capacity, I worked on every single civil rights law of the last 25 years. And so we fought hard as Black women, as people of color, in different coalitions that involved labor and all of that, to make sure that those laws were passed, including laws like reducing the penalty between powder and crack cocaine, extending the Voting Rights Act, and so on. And so after I left that position, I started my own consulting firm, and what I decided to do was develop a process for holding corporations accountable. It's just one of many. It doesn't replace lawsuits. It doesn't replace boycotts. It doesn't replace having people of color on boards of directors. But I created a process called a civil rights audit. And so I did a civil rights audit of Airbnb in 2016 and a civil rights audit of Facebook in 2018 to 2020. And for Airbnb, I'm here wearing my hat as a consultant for them, representing the great Janae Ingram, who couldn't be here, who is a senior executive now for many years at Airbnb. But anyway, as a result of that civil rights audit, we got them to agree to enforce a policy that banned discrimination by hosts and guests. We got them to install a permanent anti-discrimination team. We got them to, when they went public, use 12 women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned firms to do their public offering. We got them to diversify their board of directors. So this is all without litigation, and this is all without laws. And so what I'm saying to you is we have to continue to talk not just about diversity and equity and inclusion, but how are these corporations who represent 2/3 of the GDP going to respect and uphold our civil rights and hold them accountable? And so we have tools at our disposal. We cannot afford to give up hope. We now have 30-some corporations who are doing civil rights audits. Eric Holder, who the former Attorney General, is doing them. Loretta Lynch, the former Attorney General, is doing them. We have got to insist at the board level and at the consumer level that these corporations do not discriminate against us. And I'll say in closing something that Minyon said that cannot be overemphasized, which is we are going to be minority-majority people of color by 2050 in this country. These companies need our workforce. They need our dollars as consumers. This feels like the last gasp of the Confederacy, what we're seeing going on in this country. And if there's a desperation to hold on to power and to deny people of color what we have worked hard to earn. We built this country. We built the White House as slaves. We built the U.S. Capitol as slaves. We have made and enriched this nation to be the power force it is. And so we have got to understand that we are not going to be denied. And so the question is, what are our tactics and strategies? But I am not going to give up hope. I am not going to give into intimidation. I don't care who the next president is. I do care who the next president is. But if by fate it isn't President Biden, we're still going to have to be strong and continue to fight. Thank you.
Ooh. Laura, given your background in organizing and knowing that we need a strategy, I think it's amazing that you're doing an audit, but we unequivocally need your leadership in a continued way on what are some more of these next steps that we need to be doing, because there's just so much work to do. And if you would just kindly pass the mic to the left to your sister who is living and walking and embodying this line of work, DC Marshall. So tell us just a little bit about what you do and how you feel, what do you feel like the path forward is, and what are some inflection points where we can actually get some strength and ammunition and strategy?
Yeah, so thank you so much. Some of what I was going to share has already been said, so I love it when we're all synced, and Minyon, I appreciate and respect you because you set the tone. But I will say this, so DC Marshall, I'm the CEO and managing partner at Diverse and Engage, and we do two things, leadership development and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our clients are Fortune 500, but large, also Fortune 10 across tech, CPG, and financial services. So we have I would say the blessing and I'm trying to think of the positive word, but there isn't, the burden of seeing what is happening inside of corporate walls. And so here is what I will share to add to this conversation. So yes, DEI initially was largely pertaining to workforce and workplace, largely. So that's where it started. And then, but now DEI has been politicized, it is weaponized, but it is now what the opposition has used as to evolve from CRT conversation. And so now DEI is an overarching umbrella at the political level right now to cancel any program, initiative, effort to course correct the documented systemic racism in this country. That's how I see it now. It's evolved. It wasn't that, but CRT, they have evolved it to, they learned the new language, they learn and grasp languages of woke and DEI, and so that's what how I see it right now. But here is what where I see hope. And I was having this conversation with Clint Odom about, where there is hope and where it is right now. And so there's 3 to, 4 items that have already been stated. And, one, I just see that we could be better organized. I think, we all are doing good and great work, but it's siloed to some extent. The public sector, the private sector, not necessarily talking to each other. So I love this conversation and always being in this room. But I would say number 1 is, as Minyon said, is to remember we're consumers and we are 14% of the population, but we represent 1.7 trillion in buying power. I'm going to say that again. Because sometimes we are walking and living and disconnected our power from the power structures that are complex. We are 1.7 trillion. We represent that in buying power. And so the corporations right now who are against, or let's just say anti-DEI, we send their babies and, executive kids to college. That's right. Yes or yes? And so I will say, so number 1, it is remembering us as consumers. So that's number 1. Number 2, we are talent. We are the employee base. And so for corporations and businesses around the country, we represent the workforce. And so remembering that we see things, and if we see things, if we see something, we should say something. So we should, as Kristen Clark said yesterday, we had a meeting at the DOJ. She says, we have to reclaim the narrative and really be fact-checking and truth-telling, because the more we allow for conversations to happen without saying, stop right there. Reverend Sharpton, he always says on his show, he never lets anyone continue with the point if it's a lie, or he will say, stop right there. And so we have to, I learned that from my mother. She said that. My mom, raise your hand. My mother watches. He says, stop right there. And so remembering, yes, he does it. Stop right there. So as employees, when you go to work for a big brand, just remembering when you're hearing things that it is up to us, we still have a voice to course correct. Because I read an article the other day and it talked about catering to a particular demographic. I said, no, it's not catering, it's course correcting. We are course correcting the systemic racism in this country. And by the way, it's documented, and you all acknowledged it 4 years ago at the diversity tipping point. The diversity tipping point, the period beginning May of 2020, when for the very first time corporate America said, oh, Black lives, air quotes, do matter, and we apologize for the years of racism. And so we have to be reminded, and again, Kristen acknowledged, you have to tell the story. So that's the second. The third thing, we have to use our tools, right? So Gen Z right now, baby, they are wearing out. Listen, if it's not TikTok, it's going to be another platform, but they are leveraging the tools to tell stories. Baby, they are the fact checkers and the truth tellers. Do you hear me? They are watching, and so when Kellogg says have cereal for breakfast, I don't know if y'all know, they're organizing right now. Do you know what they're doing? Do y'all know? I'm gonna help you out. Baby, Gen Z, this is what they said. This is what we gonna do on April Fool. Baby, we gonna shut down Kellogg. Do you see? We didn't say that, but they're leveraging their tools to regain power to say what you can't say is for you who have a bonus in the billions, tell our people to have cereal. So leveraging the tools. And then the last thing that I will say, because, you know, I think there is so much to be said about where we are and the power that we still have. It is using our network. I'm really passionate about corporate executives and women in corporate and black women in corporate, and us having the ability to run air cover, right? So you can slip us a note as to your observations and insights. And if you share observations and insights, I think then we share it with some of the leaders, the politicos in this room, and we can pass on to the committee that has the ability to call for an inquiry. Are you following what I'm saying? Yes. So we can run air cover for those who are inside the corporation. But if I slip a note to my sister who, hey, here's an observation. And we could probably use an inquiry in this industry, and you could probably call for these few companies. Do you see, are you catching what I'm sharing? And I'm gonna, as I wrap and close, we had this at the 117th Congress when Auntie Mac said, Joyce Beatty, I'm gonna give you the gavel to the D&I subcommittee, and I want you to just go, sis. And then they called the big banks and they called tech to testify and account for why are black women calling our offices every day to talk about how they are not direct reports to you, I'm not going to say names, and why it is that they're training other people to take their jobs. Is this making sense from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective? So I still have hope. We still have power. We have seen this before and much worse, but I think we have to organize ourselves, and I'm going to leave it there. So I hope you caught what I was putting down.
Sheesh. It's a lot. There's a lot being set up here. It's like individual TED Talks. So no pressure.
No, a lot of pressure, but we're in alignment. I think we attack DEI, from my standpoint, 3 different ways: as entrepreneurs and employers, as donors ourselves, and as fundraisers. Let me go back to the entrepreneur. We are the largest growing black women of starting businesses in the country. I work for a company that has 45 employees, been in existence for 25 years. All of our C-suite are black women. 80% of our employees are black women. We employ the best talent. We have government contracts domestically and internationally. We do conferences, we do events. We have the highest of standards, but we want our organization to look like us. We deal with the government. We still get set-asides for being a woman-owned company. So it might not be called DEI, but it is still economically viable to do. It is still economically the thing to do. And if we have our own workforce that is out there paying women fair prices, putting women in the C-suite, giving them leadership training, then we are doing our own DEI. That's right. That's number 1. Number 2, as donors, over 25 years ago, my late husband and I, he sold a company. We took $500,000 and put it in a donor-advised fund at the Community Foundation in Northern Virginia. That means that the grants that our foundation gives will be to African Americans, blacks, women, children of color. That is written in, it is rock solid, and into perpetuity, we will be doing grants targeted to those organizations. So we can do it as business owners, do our own DEI. As donors ourselves, we can direct where our money goes. We can target it. Fundraising. You heard Melanie call up the companies that are supporting today. They're interested in the power of buying that we bring. They want to be in front of an audience of women who spend, who make the buying decisions at home, who decide what the bank loans to get. They want to be in front of us. It's just not HR. It's not just philanthropy. It is marketing. They want the future workforce to be talented, to give the best, to make their organizations look good. So when I go to them, I don't say I want a grant, I want philanthropy. I say, how many dollars are you going to spend targeting newspapers and magazines and televisions to reach a particular audience? Oh, it's that million? I'm only asking for 100,000, and I'm going to bring you that targeted audience. So we've got to follow the language. We've got to follow the economics. If the language is now not black organization, but it's underserved, it's food deserts, it's rural communities, you can see it. You go in their reports, you go on their website, see how the language has changed. It's still the same thing. It's still a community that needs to look like the organizations want to serve communities that look like the community. And we are that community. We need to be undeniable about it, unabashedly about it. You all are in sororities, you're in links, you're in other organizations. These are groups that they are dying to get in front of. So you are giving them a win-win. You're not begging them for anything. You're delivering what they are looking for. So those are the three things that I think each of us in this room can think about: starting our own businesses, getting in a partnership with another business, deciding where we're going to write our checks. We're going to keep writing them to the HBCUs. We're going to keep writing them to the churches that we're involved in. So we're doing DEI. And then when we go ask them for money, we're going to bring our buying power.
Okay. You actually, you kicked something off because we don't have very much time left, and so I don't think we have time for individual questions, but you kicked something off that I was going to ask each of you to do anyway, which was to give us some marching orders, give us some action ideas, give us some homework, tell us what can we be doing in our daily lives. I mean, we've heard now that we have all the buying power. We're the majority in a second. We're going to be the majority. We have all the things, but they're still defeating us in so many ways when it comes to messaging, when it comes to narrative building. And so my question to each of you, in closing is, what can we do? Go ahead. Can you have the mic? You might as well.
I think I said it all.
You did.
I would say
you did.
It's many of us that can go into business, get training, collaborate with other folks. That's where I would start. We've got vendors out there that you're supporting. You all have ideas that you want to do. Social media has made it easier to reach audiences. So mine would be business owners having our own, doing our own DEI as a start.
All right.
Yeah, so I'll say there's a lot that I could probably say, but I'll say this. I think Melanie already queued up some of what we can be doing, and that is showing up at all three branches and organizing and speaking out and protesting. But I'll say then for the room, what could you do personally in your state? I met with my members this week, but I have first identified as anybody in our state, in the state of New Jersey, convening stakeholders at one table on the state of DEI. There's not a CDO summit. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about stakeholder groups. And once I learned that, no, it's not happening, I said, I want to do it.
Okay.
So I met with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman, Congressman Payne, and Senator Booker. I said, hey, I need you to get me the governor. I don't really need him to be at our meeting. I need him to sign the AG. I need the CDO. And this is about a room of 20, 30. I need one in Central Jersey and one in North Jersey. And we need to talk about a plan, how we're going to protect people who look like us. So I would say as a call to action and something to consider, you all know that our ancestors left us with bring a chair to the table. Well, I'm going to say this. Baby, we the table. Bring the table to the table. I'm going to say this again. We are the table. We are the table. We run businesses. Black women, we run businesses. We build companies. We built this country. We are the table. So you go back and you ask your member in the state for a meeting to talk about what is the plan for my community, for our community. What is the plan? They work for us. And so that's what I would leave. And I learned this. I'm going to tell you all, I did not start out from this, but I learned this from you all. I learned that level of advocacy. This is not about my business. Nobody's paying me to do this. You get this, Minyon, Tanya? No, I learned this level of advocacy from y'all. Salandra, from Sheila, I learned to leverage my power. This is not a business. Y'all don't need to write me a check for this. Although, I'm going to be quite honest, I mentioned this to one of my girls, one of my South Asian buddies, baby, she a ride. She said, oh, I'll write you a check for that out of the company's budget. Do you understand? Her name is Meeta Malik. She said, I will write you a check for that. And so I'll leave with that, but I want to thank you because y'all set the tone of how do you use your power? How do you advocate? Not necessarily just do business, because I'm going to get my checks. And so I'll leave it at that.
Well, okay. I want you to give me, as a New Jersey resident, I'd like an assignment as it relates to that effort. So I want my marching orders from you. Deadline next week. Tell me what to do.
Yes. Thank you, co-chair.
Laura.
So I would say, what I say to my family members is, what black organizations do you belong to? And I don't have to say that to this group because you're here. But I would also encourage us to support black litigating organizations that are meeting these anti-DEI people in the courtroom. And that I would include the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the NAACP, and the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law as the three top organizations fighting these fights in the courtroom. So we need to contribute. And the other thing I would say is support black media outlets. My family has owned the Afro-American newspaper for over 132 years, and we are struggling. We are struggling because newspapers are going out of business left and right, whether you're brown, green, but they report news that the Washington Post and the New York Times would never report, like meetings of this kind. So support black media outlets, whether it's radio, print, or whatever. And the third thing I would say is support black businesses, because your power is in your pocketbook. So many people have said, show me your budget. I think Biden said it, and I'll show you your priorities. So if I looked at your budgets, ladies, I would see where a lot of your dollars are being spent. Let's make sure that a good portion of those dollars are being spent with black women-owned businesses, especially, but black businesses in general. And of course, it goes without saying, we have to get super organized for this election.
Yeah, Laura's, all of these points have been profound, but yes, in terms of supporting black media, we're in a state of emergency. And if our messaging and our narratives are not getting out there, we got a continued problem. And so, you know, your lineage in that paper is an institution and has been a griot for so many issues for a long time. So, not even last, because you're forward, you're in the front, Minyon. You know, just give us some final wisdom. You know, what can we do?
Well, I have 44 seconds. Well, the first thing I would say is, this room probably doesn't need to hear this, but I will say it anyway. First of all, you have to have the courage of your convictions, because it does take courage to go inside these corporations, to go inside these political organizations and have a seat at the table. One of the things that I so admire about the vice president is when she goes in a room, she doesn't see who's at the table. She sees who's not at the table. And you have to always see yourself as an advocate for someone that is not in the room. And each of you are advocates for someone who is not in the room. And you have to be willing to sacrifice. Sometimes you have to be willing to sacrifice your own voice to say, hey, listen, this is not right. And if I leave you with nothing else, I leave you with courage. Power doesn't always have to roar. It simply has to be able to stand for truth. And we know that we're living in a time of choice. We have a choice to make, not just in November. I love the way all of these ladies tied it into the civil rights. Make sure you're checking that these corporations are paying attention to civil rights laws. Make sure that you're connecting to your lawmakers in these states, because they don't want corporations in these states that are bad actors either. That's not good for them. And then lastly, the power is in your vote. So each one must teach one this go around. Don't think it's good enough for us to sit in the room, but we got to be evangelists when we go out the room so that we can lift our voices to let it be known. Because the reason why they think black women are powerful is because we exercise every tool in our arsenal. And it's not that we're just trying to show we're powerful, but we're voting, we're spending, and we're holding people accountable. And if you continue to do all three of those and lace it with courage, I think we'll win. Not just an election, we will win for our families.
Wow. Well, listen, we were on time. Like, look, we made it to the exact specific moment that they said, stop talking. We did it. Y'all did it. Listen, I don't know where Melanie's back. Melanie. What can I say about Melanie Campbell in this room that is not a table is empty, in this room that she has convened? And it is not just this room she has convened. She has convened a room across the globe, because there's translators in back from Portugal and France and Spanish. So this is being streamed all around the globe. So in answer to everybody, what are our action items? Is to continue to stream this messaging across the globe that we have to act, and we have to mobilize, and we have to galvanize and use our spending power and our purchasing power and all of the majority power that we have to take the audits, to hold these companies accountable, and to be fearless, as are all of you. So thank you, Melanie Campbell, for thank you. Thank you for being you, for being tireless and not always having to be in front of the camera. Not always having, you have been so slight, but your time is now in terms of your moment, because you got an international audience from the continent and everywhere else. So praise God, all of you. Thank you. Can we get a quick...
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Look at your sister to the right and say, you look gorgeous. And if you got a brother, say, you look handsome. We ain't gonna leave our brothers out. Look to the left and say, I'm so glad that you are in the room today. Because not only are you making history, you are history. So we thank you. We're getting ready to call another panel on our panel that we're getting ready to call, roundtable that we're getting ready to have. For this one will be our and we're going to ask them to come. Economic security, the safety net, access to care, and social justice leadership roundtable. And as I call them up, is Carol Joyner, the Executive Director for Family Values of Action, Honorable Sheila Tyson, Commissioner Jefferson County, Alabama, Commissioner Convener of Alabama Black Women's Roundtable, MSCBCP, Tamika Ramsey from Michigan, Convener for MSCBCP, and also a business owner that she, not only Tamika, not only does she, thank you. So not only, is Tamika? Okay. And Sheila, okay, they coming. So I can brag about them a little bit while they walking up here. So these sisters here are, can't hear us in the back? Better? Okay, thank you. You all can come, it's just you all three. Come, it's just gonna, Carol, come in the middle so they can get real good shots of you all. It's three of you all. I can brag about these sisters. Sometimes we know people's name, but we don't know them. And I tell people it's better for people, it's not better for you to know somebody, it's better for them to be able to know you. And I'm so glad that I know them. I'm so glad these are some bad sisters. I will go into any fight, any battle, any struggle with them. And when I say that, and I know they love me and they trust me, because when I called them to go on a trip out of the country, they didn't say no. They packed their bags because we wanted to make sure that we, as we see our global peace, we wanted to make sure we went to Colombia, we went to Kenya, we went to travel together. And when you travel with women for long periods of time, you better know that you better love them, because the makeup bag might not be there. We don't know where we're going to be sleeping at. We don't, sometimes we're going in the hut, sometimes we're going whatever, we're going where the people are. And these are some true sisters. When the cameras, they are leaders in their own space. People come to them for consultation. People come to them to get direction. These are real leaders, boots on the ground, always there for anybody. Really resemble what Black Women Roundtable is about being about the sisterhood, the love of sisterhood. It ain't about the title, ain't about how much money you got, ain't how much, but that's making sure that the next sister is taken care of, be it in the United States or around the globe. So I just want to give y'all flowers, and I really appreciate all that you do. And so we're going to give them a hand. Give me just a privilege for a minute, because we want to do with some respect. We do have, women, we just can't be in the room by ourselves. Our brothers got to be up in here some kind of way, right? Because, and as someone said yesterday, it's okay because we are the mothers that birthed them, right? So with this minute, we just want them to stand, and we just want to acknowledge we have a king from Cameroon, Africa, that had came over, is in our midst, and you can stand so we can see, have them stand. So we thank them, thank you. So we thank them for stopping by. I know they got some important meetings they have in D.C. while they're here, meeting with the embassy and some other people, but we're glad that they took out a little bit of time to come stop by and see what the sisters of the Black Women Roundtable is doing. So at this time, these are my sisters, so we don't have to be, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation. So, and pray for our sister Cassandra. She was supposed to be here, but and Deborah, they got, both of them got sick. So, yeah. So we're going to start off with Sheila. So the increasing cost of basic necessities like food, housing, health care, and transportation has continued to make everyday living more and more challenging. We need stronger policies to help bring these costs down. What policies should Black women support and address, and how should we address these concerns?
Thank you so much for even, just for inviting me definitely to be on this panel. I'm over in Jefferson County Senior Services, I'm over youth detention, I'm over community development, and I'm over the healthcare system for Jefferson County. So we have been working in several directions trying to hit it from both ends, and that's from the senior citizens. They are living longer. Seniors are living longer, and it was a survey has been done, and they don't want to just play bingo and dominoes. I don't know who came up with that anyway. I'm serious. And it sounds like some white folks that came up with anyway, because that isn't the only thing that seniors like doing, and that's not the only thing that they can afford to do. So it's a lot of things that they need that we are not paying attention to. Like Meals on Wheels, it's needed because majority of the seniors do not apply for food stamps because of the income. And their income, they are on fixed income. So I guess they want you to make nothing in order to qualify for this. Even with the Meals on Wheels, you don't have a center like for a group session. In Jefferson County, it's 32 centers, but in other counties, it's lesser than that. So you got to look at the policies that are being written, and they're coming from the state. It's only when they get to the local level, it's bare minimum of changes you can make on a local level. You can give more money, but if your budget is at this much and you only have a room to give so many hundreds of dollars and you trying to cover 2 and 3 million people, that's a lot of money. When the state is sending money back. So you got to have several eyes on the prize. But that means everyone in these positions has to do what they can do in order to make it a whole pie. A lot of people think they know everything about local government, but don't know nothing. Because I thought I knew a lot, because I was protesting public officials. Then I had to turn around and serve with them, and I found out the things that I thought they could do, they couldn't do. You can't go beat someone over the head and make them give you the funding for this. You got to be able to maneuver around the system and go to other outlets to try to find the money to fulfill the citizens that you serve. And I'm talking about all of us should be like that toward anyone where you live at. You don't have to be a public official or anything to fight for a cause. You got to have it in your heart. And understand that you don't know everything. You don't know it. You got to learn and figure it out for yourself. Even with youth detention, it's programs that will help parents with the child care. But who is publicizing this? So we need to publicize. So why you're not taking it and putting it in your church bulletin? And go to several different churches and do that. Why you're not calling? The public officials probably don't even like me. You think I care? But I constantly tell them, they say, well, that's not your job. That isn't the requirement of a county commissioner. I live, I get up, I eat, I walk, and I see these people. It's my job to make sure that they can get everything they can get. And we got to make sure we're doing our job. And as a humanity part, serve these people. The money there, you'll be surprised if you check and see how much money the state send back to these programs that we are not receiving. We received over $72 million for utility assistance, which was going back. and my one of my assistants checked, and we seen, and we was able to get that money.
Elections is important. So Sheila, I just want to do a highlight because I like to brag on my sisters. I have no envy or jealous of nobody. Because when I see my sisters doing their thing, I am their biggest cheerleader. And I'm going to tell you how, when Sheila, we started, she came to the Black Women Roundtable, and at the time I was with the AFL-CIO doing community, and the Koji church convention asked me to come into Birmingham, Alabama to do some training. And so afterwards, since I came, you know how sisters do, oh, you going to be in my town, I'm going to take you around. I mean, so Sheila took me, we walked through the park. The homeless people was like, hi, Miss Tyson. The other person was like, thank you, Miss Tyson, for helping my mom get her electric bill paid. Then we went to some other, higher level folks. They was like, yeah, Sheila, okay, Sheila, whatever you want, don't it? And I looked at her and said, girl, you need to run for office. I said, if the homeless to the rich man up there on his rooftop talking about you, they know your name. She said, you think so? I said, you should. And so eventually she did, and she started out as a city council. Because we need real people. We need real people that know the real issues to make sure they're fighting for us. And she definitely leveraged her power as being a Black woman in that seat. And not only that, then when she got, this is how we do, sisters, y'all can understand. Then she went, I said, it's time for you to run for county commissioner. She said, you think so? I said, yeah. So I'm working, she doing her, I said, if you run for county commissioner, didn't I tell you, remember that? I said, I'm going to bring my family. We're going to have a family reunion in Birmingham, Alabama. And guess what? She won, and I had to do that. I had to bring my family. But not only that, but she ran against a white male. See, I like to tell the story because we don't tell our stories, okay? She ran against a white male, right, Emily? Tell me I'm telling the truth. We just speaking truth. They had already set the salary because they thought he was going to win. And when this sister came in the race and upset that race, do you know they was trying to go back and change that salary? This is how they do things, right? And so she calls me, she with her staff or whatever. So she calls me. She said, Solange, I ain't know, I've been doing this stuff for free. I ain't know I was gonna be making that kind of money. But the thing is that I said, you deserve it, because guess what? When you are faithful over little things, God will bless you with big things. We thank her. I mean, she's doing some great work there in Alabama. I mean, she's getting single mothers. I'm gonna brag a little bit. She's getting single mothers, getting their credit scored up for first time home, and they got some nice houses, 4-bedroom houses. They got. I mean, she's doing a great work as sitting in that black. That's why we need more women running for office, because you already understand our struggle. You know what I'm saying? We like to keep coming in there lobbying and telling our story. You already know. So we thank you for that, sister. We thank you. So we're gonna go over here to Detroit. We're gonna go over here to Detroit I call her, she my baby sis, I call her. Okay, Tamika Ramsey doing some awesome stuff in Michigan, running state voices at one point, helped getting the legislation passed over there, reproduction rights. Can't do it without a black woman, because guess what? How they talk about it, we talk about it different to make sure that our black folks get out. Okay, it's a different narrative. So we thank Tamika. Again, quiet, powerful. You don't have to put your stuff on 6 o'clock news. People know who you are. Sometimes we got to go back. Like we used to say, the underground railroad, like Minyon was talking about Melanie, everything she don't put out on record, but everything you see that's going on across this nation, I don't care what organization or what movement or what's going on, guess what? Black women, Melanie Campbell, her hand is in there. As Julie said, we're not the secret sauce no more, we is the sauce.
Yes.
And we're okay, black women, so we want to make sure that you make sure you're part of that recipe in any state, any city that you are. So with that said, we thank you, Tamika, for being that sauce in Michigan. We appreciate you. So with that said, So with all this that's going on, we know that as black women, especially when it comes to Medicaid, Social Security, that's like the only thing, because a lot of states, don't have the pensions like Michigan do. So when our sisters, our mothers, our aunties, and they, finish their workforce, they're going to be relying on Social Security and Medicaid. And how many people, just raise your hand, how many people here know somebody that depends on Social Security? Okay, y'all rich. Okay, well, if you don't, you will, okay? What can we do? What can we do? And it's not, we know it's not that. What can we do in this time, in this moment? How can we protect that for our grandparents and for our aunties? Because a lot of them right now are in low-wage jobs, right? So their Social Security is not going to be as much when they retire. But that's something on the chopping block right now that they want. They always coming against and attacking Social Security and Medicaid. That's because, again, the majority of are women that's receiving those benefits. Can you talk about that?
Thank you very much, Solandra, and I thank you for allowing me to be on this panel. I appreciate it. Social Security is something that is vital to our communities. A lot of our seniors receive it. The fact that they keep raising the age for it requires people who are ready to get out of the workforce to continue to work. And this puts a burden on them physically and mentally and financially, because then they have to play this Social Security math where they can't make too much money, right? And if they do, then it will impact the Social Security that they receive. And so you have a lot of people, a lot of seniors in the state of Michigan now looking to have small side businesses to be able to help them with needed extra income, because insurance is not covering the medications that people need. Housing costs across the country are going up, but in some places people are paying 56% of their income to their housing costs. Subsidized housing for seniors is not increasing, and if they live in the homes, semi-retirement homes, that costs a lot of money. And so what we've been doing is working with seniors to I have an amazing shawl. It is crocheted and it is beautiful. And so I help an elderly lady create those things and sell them on the side. We make sure that her business is legit, but she can make enough to cover the income that she needs. People shouldn't have to deal with these type of things. It is going to take younger people, me advocating for people like my mother, and then my daughter advocating for me, right? We have to fight for policies to make sure that seniors aren't deciding whether they need to pay their rent or buy their medicine, right? There are so many people who die prematurely because of the lack of resources in their state. So we need to be able to work on that. It's going to take a policy change, talking to seniors and then talking to the elected officials. And I tell people, start with your state reps and your state senators. And then you come to DC and you talk to your Congress people, because the most consistent voting bloc in this country are seniors. These politicians go to churches and go to senior sitters, and they will shuck and jive for us to get elected, and then once that election is gone, so is they. Right? So we need to start holding them accountable to their word and making sure that we're looking at the policy. There are politicians that I promise you, if I saw them in a dark room, they'd get hit and I act like I ain't touched them. You're like, what? Who hit you? I don't know. But I didn't vote it for them, right? Because I don't need to love them. I need to make sure that your values are in line with my community. So we look for, I had a friend that say, some people look for love when they look for their politicians, and some people look for leadership. I don't need to love you. I need to make sure your values are in line with that of my community. And my community is that from my unborn grandson all the way to my great-grandmother, who all need the same support and assistance. And so we cannot complain that our mamas and our grandmamas or grandfathers are struggling with Social Security if we're not voting, if we're not holding our elected officials accountable, and if we're not coming to DC and advocating.
Thank you, Tamika. Thank you. And thank you for how you're working with the young people and bringing them along. I appreciate that because we need everybody. So, Carol, as much as we need policies that lower costs, we also need policies that prioritize our well-being. Explain why paid leave is so important and what we need to do to continue to expand the protections of paid leave and care.
All right. Thank you so much. And it's great to be up here with my sisters and to have you, my travel partners, up here talking about economic and social justice. And I'm going to start with the fact that 4 years ago, we were at the same summit, BWR Summit, and many people had heard about the pandemic. We didn't know exactly the train wreck that was coming our way. We were doing this and giggling and touching and greeting with our feet. We knew not to touch each other, but we didn't know exactly what it was. No one had masks on. We couldn't even find masks at that point if we wanted them. And I was on this same panel because my life doesn't change. I talk about the same thing all the time if you know me. And so my life doesn't change that much. And I said on this same panel that what's coming before us is going to require policies that we have not put in place, that we are going to need paid family and medical leave. We are going to need paid sick and safe days. We are going to need the policies that the rest of the world has sort of figured out, but the United States has ignored, for the last 40, 50 years when the rest of the world instituted those policies. And lo and behold, a month or two later, COVID hits us like a train, and we had no ability to quarantine. 25% of private sector employers were providing paid leave at the time, maybe 22%, now it's 25% of private sector employers, and 40% were providing paid medical leave, so you could take time off if you were sick. But the majority of the people in the country, about 75%, had nothing. And the result is in the numbers. The United States is about 5% of the world's population, and by 2022, we had 35% of the world's deaths related to COVID. So we're 5% of the population, yet we had 35% of the world's deaths. And that was because we could not stay home. And even when Congress instituted some emergency COVID policies, the Ways and Means Committee that manages Social Security and all these policies, right? The Ways and Means Committee literally said to us, because we were helping them draft the language, right? We've been fighting for paid leave on a federal level. They literally said to us, we do not have legs to stand on. We have to literally craft this in a couple of weeks because we don't have a foundation. Every other nation had something to build on if they didn't already have these policies. And so I'm saying this to you and linking this issue of lack of paid leave, because even before the pandemic, it was a problem. We have, many network partners. I'll shout out some in the room in a second. But in Nevada, we have a sister, Tamika Henry, who, when her husband got sick, and it took about a month to diagnose his illness, in that time, he lost his full-time job. She lost her full-time job because she took time off, and she didn't have paid leave. And finally, the employer said, okay, well, you're fired. They lost their child care, and their family had to come in and help them save their home. This happened in 6 weeks. They went from fully employed with a home, with child care, to absolutely having to go to their family to figure out how they were going to pay their bills so that they can keep a roof over their heads. If they had paid leave, they would not have had to do that. They would have had money coming in. They would have been able to worry about the husband's illness, take care of that, and then eventually he did heal, and eventually they all would have gone back to work, and their life would have just gone on. They melted every dime that they had. They had to cash in all of their savings in order to deal with that crisis. This story is told over and over and over again across our country. It is rampant in the Black community. On average, 25% of all low-wage women of color return to work within 2 weeks after giving birth. 2 weeks. And they have no other option. If they don't go back to work, they cannot put food on the table. So I'm going to connect this issue to something that Dr. Malveaux talked about when she talked about the microeconomic issues. We know the price of eggs are bad and it's starting to come down, thank goodness. We know the price of gas has been bad and is going up and down, but at a pretty stable place now. We know the price of housing is just completely out of control. The silent killer that we don't talk about is the lack of care infrastructure. Because if you can't pay for eggs, you damn sure can't take time off to care for your sick child. If you can't pay for eggs, you damn sure can't take time off to help your mother with her cancer treatment, because you have to show up to work or lose your job. And so we have a real issue that we don't even talk about. Sheila, you mentioned the aging of our population. We assume the largest population is going to be people like me and some of the people, my friends in this room, who are out of the baby boomer generation, and we are living longer, maybe not better, but longer, and we have lots of medical intervention to do that. However, what do we need? We're going to need our children to have paid leave, because when we get sick, we're going to need them to take care of us. We're going to need them to be with us. So I'm saying that our fight is one of the ages. It's from birth to death. We need care policies like paid leave, child care, and home and community-based services across the board in every single state. My organization and many others, some of you in this room, have fought to pass paid leave in a number of places. We now have passed it in 14 states, including the District of Columbia. And so states in this room, like Maryland, passed paid family and medical leave. Stand up and take applause. And D.C. passed paid family and medical leave. Michigan passed paid sick days and has a big fight brewing around paid family and medical leave. But this will not happen in some states where the voting has been gerrymandered, where you cannot wrestle control of your state legislature for the next 25 years because of that gerrymandering. So you can't flip that House or that Senate or that Assembly that allows you to pass these kind of policies. So we need a national solution. You need to make sure that you vote, to make sure that you vote for people who care about these care issues, make paid leave, child care, home and community-based services one of your talking points at the doors. We have care voters all over this country who care about these issues, but they don't know that you care about them because we don't talk about them. We assume these are our personal problems. Something's wrong with me that I don't have paid leave. No, something's wrong with this society that we devalue caregiving. And so I'm saying to you, the way to pay for all of that, and I'm going to stop right here because I know my sister's going to take this mic in a second, the way that we pay for all of it, paid leave, child care, home and community-based services, child tax credits, right? The way we pay for all of that is to take our tax dollars back because they have served the corporations and the billionaires far too long, and we have an opportunity in the next year to fix that. When the Trump tax cuts begin to sunset next year, the Trump tax cuts, also known as the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, begin to sunset, meaning go away, they're going to want to reinstate them. 90% of those serve billionaires and corporations. It shifted money from our households to theirs. And so our fight has to be to pay attention to this tax fight that's coming our way, because that's the money to fund paid family leave, child tax credits, ensure Social Security is solvent, make sure that our elders have Meals on Wheels, and that they don't gut it, on all the policies that we need in order to thrive. Thank you.
And can I say something? Carol, she's dead on the money. I have had to call her for the state of Alabama. And the problem what we're running into is public officials that's at the table not saying anything because they feel like their seat is being threatened. They will do something to try to trump up something, to try to put you in jail, to force you into doing things that they want you to do, you know. And I'm up on a situation now where I'm trying to be forced into doing something that I know that is really not in my best interest, because they don't give a damn about my best interest. But they got people who I know trying to force me into doing something that I asked them to do, and they turned me down, and now you feel like you need me. Hell, it's too late now. So they are not looking at that, but it's more than what the eye to see.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we're up against. But when we're at the table, that's when we've got to tell. And we've got to change these policies. If they're coming from the federal government, what about the state? I don't care if you're outnumbered. What is stopping you from letting the local people know what the state is doing?
Exactly. So with that said, we got a lot of young people in the room, and we got a lot of people that feel as though that they may not be as knowledgeable as some of the folks that's in the room, but they're going back into their communities, and we like in a bubble, you know, the people that work in policy worlds, because we sleep, eat, but, you know, the grassroots, you know, don't have time because they're working 2 and 3 jobs. They're trying to figure out how they're going to pay for the $400 or $500 a month child care. They're trying to figure out how they're going to be able to pay for that medicine, right? And thanks to the Black Women Roundtable and a lot of you all in the room that actually advocated for the medicine, for diabetic medicine. Now it's only $35. They only can negotiate. They can't. But people was paying $500, $600, and they was on Social Security. We sisters in Florida, they know we was at Senator Congress Murphy, all the Congress, we was at their doors and everything. They was ready to put us in jail. But that was a really issue that our community, Black folks, our grandmamas and our aunties and Black men and everybody on diabetics. If you metformin or they got you on something, you know what I'm saying? They got you on, and I can relate to what you said because I have a personal story myself, Cal. As you know, my son, healthy, don't drink, don't do drugs, all of a sudden got sick, working, and then boom, 12 days, he's in the emergency room. They keep him for 12 days. In the emergency room trying to figure out what's going on, almost died, heart levels down to 35, but guess what? And the reason that I know, thanks to my union job, that I had paid leave, that I could take off and sit there with my baby for 12 days, the doctors and everyone, because you have to have an advocate. This is what I want y'all to know. If any of your people go to the hospital or is in the hospital, they are so fearful, especially men, they might not tell you fearful because they don't know what's going on. We have to have somewhere, and even if you don't have to know all the knowledge, because I don't know all the knowledge, right, of these medical terms. Half of them I can't even pronounce these, prescriptions. But just by being there, just by being present, I know my baby is here today doing well. Went to Kenya, Africa, Ghana, going ready to go. He's traveling, but I know. And the doctors and everyone kept coming in and said, and I had my computer, I was doing a conference, but guess what? I had a conference, AFL, everything. I'm like, but my baby come first. Yeah. Family first. Okay, baby, God, family first, your work. We get so caught up in the dollar, but we got to be present for our families. And he was there, and let me tell you something, and they took better care, I know, better care of him because I was present. Wow. That I was present. I didn't know all the questions to ask, but guess what? I was calling Deanna Smith. I was calling my sister in Virginia. I was calling the nurses, the people that's in the health fair. They was telling me the questions to ask. They was getting on the phone. They was being a family tree. I didn't even know you could have a tree. Honey, after they wore them out, and next thing you know, what happened, y'all? They brought in a whole team of young Black doctors. Do you hear what I say? Before they was, But now I'm like, where y'all been? We been here for my and they was advocates. They were advocates. The doctors was advocate for them, you know, for him and doing that. And he, and so because he lost his health insurance, you know, he was in between. That's how it happens, you know, you know. And so guess what? And then his eloquence, he had to pay eloquence, right? They was charging him now. He ain't got no job. He only 30 years old. He lost a job because, you know, and he was, so I thank God for Obamacare. I don't care what nobody say, because to 26 microbabies was able to stay on mine. But they want to charge him $700 a month. And I'm like looking, but guess what? If it wasn't, again, for family and using up my savings and everybody else's, whatever, because they said this is the best thing for him to have. Medicaid wouldn't pay for it because we in Florida, no extended Medicaid. Like y'all talking about the federal dollars, the Biden administration trying to put it down there, but our governor's stopping it at the state level where a lot of folks could be able to have it because he's a young male, single, he can't get no Medicaid and all that other stuff, so many different things. So, but we have to advocate. We definitely have to. We lost one of our sisters in the Black Women Roundtable network in Florida talking about COVID. That's why we on this paid leave situation in Florida, our Black Women's Round, because she continued to go to work. Yes. Because she said, if I don't go to work, I won't get paid, and I have to make sure that my children have a roof over their head. Today, they don't have their mother. They may have a roof over their head, but they don't have their mother because, again, of these policies not being passed. So with that said, 1 minute. I'm watching y'all. If I do like this, put my glass up, that means just hush. We talk about it in the hallway. So 1 minute, just encourage or give, because everybody's an advocate. Okay, regardless if you got a degree, don't got a degree. Because guess what? Most of us come from families that we used to hear at the family reunions that grandmom only had an 8th grade education, grandpa did it, but they left us a lot of land in Georgia. And so they knew something. They ain't had an education, but they knew something to be able to do that. Down there trying to take all our property away from us. But Tamika, what would you say to the young activists, the youngest person in this room, the young people that's in this room, people that want to get engaged, but they don't feel as though they have all the qualifications to be activists on these policies?
I would say 2 things. One, technology is your friend. I get on Zoom calls. I be off camera, on mute, headphones on, doing 500 different things. You can get on these trainings and listen. And it's not that you're going to learn right away, but you can continue to hear and continue to get the knowledge. So use the technology and use your network. If you are in this room, then you are a part of a network. And if you have people outside of this room, you are the network. Plug into your networks and just learn and listen. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know everything right away, but you can continue to learn. The other thing is, the Spider-Man origin story. Peter Parker let this robber run out the store because he was like, this ain't my business, saying robber killed his uncle. It's always our business. It is not, oh, that's not my problem, not right now, but it might be later. So you need to address it, right? Because when we say, I am my sister's keeper, we mean that. And if Carol or Sheila call me and say, Tamika, I need, it might not have nothing to do with me, but I'm going to be there for them because I don't want to have to get to me.
Thank you. Carol, 30 seconds.
I think we have an opportunity in the next year to wrap our heads around revenue. And people are afraid of that term. It's math, it's our taxes, and we want to pretend like we don't understand any of it. And I'm not an economist. I'm not even going to try to pretend to be one. However, I am going to be learning all of the ways in which we can get back the $30 trillion that's been stolen from us in my lifetime. And next year is the opportunity to begin that process. Young people in this room understand revenue, because revenue is the difference. Taxes and how it's spent is the difference between whether or not you have a Pell Grant or not, whether or not your college gets funding from the federal government or not. It tells you whether or not, it's the difference between whether or not you will have maybe a minimum wage and access to a minimum wage or something higher, a living wage, or not. It is the dividing factor between what we have and what we don't have. So revenue is the buzzword. organize around revenue, organize, sister, to fund our
Pass the
futures.
mic. Pass the mic. Drop the mic, Sheila. Y'all, so we can.
Let me tell you this. Being a public official isn't nothing sexy. It's nothing popular. I thought in life that everybody really, I was okay with everybody until I became a public official. Then you find out these folks around here can't stand your ass, okay? Because, I'm sorry. I'm on TV. Sorry, y'all. And in a lot of, I don't know what's going on in people's mind. And because I know how I was before I became a public official. It's what you do when you at the table, I'm telling you. You either gonna speak up or you gonna lay down. You don't have a whole lot of options around here. Because we know that they are in the majority. So what we got to do is we got to educate the people and make the meetings and let everyone know what money is coming down. It's too much money coming down from the federal government to these states. Check how much money is going back. We are not looking at the money that's going back. That should be going into our communities. We're not looking at that. You're too busy trying to focus on that one individual instead of the pot of money that you could be pulling into your city, into your county. We're not looking at none of that.
Good.
And once you see that, then you're going to see which way and which direction you need to do to go get that. And it's coming from that state. The state has a lot of that money that is sitting there, and they are sending a lot of it back. They rather throw the baby out with the bathwater than to let you get any of the water, period.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. These are real grassroots in their communities every day, 365 days. I think Melanie is out on another interview. Have y'all enjoyed yourself so far? We got one more panel. We're going to be letting you all go. Thank you, sisters. We're going to get the picture real fast. Thank you, ladies and gents. We got one more. Stay with us because you don't want to miss this panel. So as they come to the stage, we got another bad sister lawyer that serves on our National Coalition Board, Sonia Jarvis. Escort, she is the baddest lawyer I know that keep us straight in this world. And she's going to be moderating. You're going to moderate, right? Are you going to moderate or somebody else? Oh, Joy, she's over there having a sidebar. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was the backup in case she couldn't make it.
Okay. So we got Joy Cheney. Joy Cheney was the one that made sure we got to the Capitol, to the Supreme Court yesterday. She made sure the transportation was on point. She was so on point and organizing. And I'm going to give her a shout out because she is from Florida. Oh! So Joy's going to be moderating for us. And then we have Clint Odom. I got him. Okay, great. Okay, good. So we're gonna turn. Okay, we're gonna turn it over to Joy, and she will announce who's gonna be on the panel. Is that good? Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, because I talk too much.
You didn't talk too much.
I did.
You did. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Let's give it up for Cassandra. Wonderful. First of all, point of privilege, I want to thank you all for yesterday's Public Policy Day. We had a great time. And if you have not seen our photo at the Capitol, it was one for the history books. Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, now we know Melanie Campbell, and she is inclusive. And we have a bigger panel than we had expected. So we're going to actually split it up really quickly, and it's going to be 2 hits of 3 and 3. So can I please have to the table Danielle Davis, Director of Technology and Policy at the Joint Center for Economic and Political Studies. Sonia Jarvis, Distinguished Lecturer and Director of the Center on Equality, Pluralism, and Policy at the College of Public Affairs at the Brock School, is already up here. Sonia, I'm going to have you go in the middle so I can sit on the side. Well, thank you so much. That was very kind. And then I have my colleague, another consultant for the National Coalition, Joycelyn Tate, Senior Tech Policy Advisor of the Black Women's Roundtable Digital Equity Project at the Tommy Deutsch Jr. Institute. Come on up. And Joycelyn, is your colleague, is our new fellow coming?
Yes, she is.
Wonderful. Hi, are you Avery Allen? Come on up. The new Deutsch Institute has a series of fellows, thanks to some of our corporate partners, which we love. And Avery Allen is our new Hope and Justice Tech Fellow. Avery, welcome. I am so sorry about that. Let me make sure nobody can call me during this panel. All right, so we're going to go quickly because hold on, let me get your attention. Is everyone hearing me? Excellent. So one of the things we want to do for the people in the room and the people who are watching virtually is kind of set the stage, because I think with tech policy, we hear things every Facebook, TikTok, all kinds of things. Do me a favor, Joycelyn, can you kind of level set? Make sure everyone is on the same page. What are some of the current controversies happening on the Hill around tech? And you feel free to just name out, is AI, privacy, all of the things that are happening in tech right now, because it is a hot topic. Uh-oh, we can't hear you. Maybe turn it on? Turn it on?
Can you hear me now? There. All right.
Thank you, Joycelyn.
Okay, just quickly, the top line things that are going on in tech policy right now. I know all of you have probably heard about TikTok. One issue with TikTok is it's major owned by a Chinese company. And I personally have been telling people for years, the information that you're putting on TikTok, the Chinese government is getting it. And what they use that information, what they could be using that information for is learning about specific groups, how to resonate with specific groups, and eventually how to target certain groups. It could be in elections or anything else. So that's why the issue with TikTok in its ownership is so important. It's such an important issue on Capitol Hill right now, and they're talking about banning it because so much of our information is on TikTok, and they can use that information for whatever purposes that they want to use it for. So that's the reason. And
so national security is an issue here.
It's a national security issue.
And something we learned on Wednesday night, the head of Essence was saying like how Russia is the predominant person looking to see what black women are doing. And we kind of clapped because he's like, oh yeah, we're the center of culture. But they're also looking because they want to know how to manipulate American culture.
Exactly.
So it's twofold, and it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Okay, so we're concerned about national security. What else?
artificial intelligence as a whole. Artificial intelligence is being used in ways that discriminate against us, and we don't, and you may have been discriminated against and don't even know it. Artificial intelligence now is being used in employment, it's being used in healthcare, and it's being used to determine what kind of services you get. And the thing is, the people who develop these algorithms, they call, artificial intelligence is basically a set of commands that, and it teaches a system how to give a certain output. But the issue is, whoever develops these systems, these AI tools, if they come in with certain biases, when they develop those tools, then the output from those tools will contain those same biases.
That's why it's really important for us to write.
That's
so
why
the ChatGPT will pick up your words.
Right. So what happens is, if I come in with certain biases, say, and I'll just give you an example. Because AI systems are being used even in the court, even in court settings in the criminal justice system, to determine who gets bail, could be determining your sentencing. So let's just say, for instance, if I'm using an AI system to determine who gets bail, if I've set the AI system up to say, if you've been arrested 2 times, then you probably won't be eligible for bail. Well, now that person that might have been arrested 2 times, and then someone who's never been arrested, maybe they get bail. But the person that was arrested 2 times might have been arrested because they were with the Black Women's Roundtable doing civic engagement work. So they won't get bail.
Right. Okay, we're going to keep moving, but that is really good. And one other thing. Go ahead. Anything else?
And data privacy. Data brokers are taking our information, and they're scraping it from the web without our knowledge and using it and selling it to people who are targeting us with information and using it for purposes that we didn't intend. So that is another issue that we're dealing with on Capitol Hill. We have some legislation. I'll let Avery tell you the legislation that we're endorsing and pushing, but those are like the top 3 issues that we're dealing with in tech.
Thank you so much. Well, actually, hold on. I'm going to come back to you, Avery. We're going to ping pong a little bit, and then when our tech and telecom partners come up, they're going to also, from corporate America, I know they're going to talk about ACP and BEAD. So Danielle, what has the Biden administration, if you don't mind, and Danielle's from the Joint Center, what have they done, and what has the most recent Congress's done to close the digital divide?
Well, the Biden administration has done a lot of things to close the digital divide that has essentially really impacted the Black community in a lot of great ways. So for one, the Biden administration passed the infrastructure bill, which it also aimed things at traditional infrastructure, but it provided $65 billion aimed at broadband investment. So, and a part of that bill included 3 programs. So you had the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is essentially a subsidy aimed at low-income individuals that provided up to $30 on your internet bill, or up to $75 on your internet bill if you reside on tribal lands.
Can everyone hear Danielle?
Okay. Good. And also a $100 subsidy towards the purchase of a laptop, a desktop, or a tablet from a participating provider. So then the next program is the BEAD program, which is the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. So if we think about the ACP is the affordability piece. So that helps households to afford the actual internet service. But the BEAD program is where we are building out the infrastructure needed to get internet access to communities that sometimes don't already have it. So then the next program would be the Digital Equity Act, which is essentially an act that would help with digital inclusion, helping people access the internet and learn how to use the internet for now this internet access that's included. So what's at stake right now is that we don't currently have a permanent funding mechanism for the ACP. It is about to expire. The FCC has already said that the program will expire by, and this is an estimate, it can expire sooner, but by the end of April 2024. So we got
One more month?
Yeah, we have a few weeks, essentially. There are bills in Congress right now, but there has been no movement on them. But another part of that is that the success of the ACP impacts the BEAD program, because you have all these you don't have the subscriber base that you thought you were going to have for the BEAD programs for all this build out. So you're building out all this infrastructure, but now you don't have the subscribers to subscribe to the internet service that you're building out. And not to mention, if the program goes away, even just temporarily, think about what that's going to do to the minds of the people who had the program. You're going to lose trust. What would make you want to re-sign up for this program if you feel that it's just going to go away? But even more than that, the Black community is essentially disproportionately affected by the digital divide. So 23 million people signed up for this program, but 5.5 million of those households are Black households, and according to the White House. So that program is going to impact at least 5.5 million households from having the internet service that they need. Either they're going to lose their internet altogether, or they're going to have increases in their bills that they probably cannot afford. So that's
Danielle,
what's at stake.
that's very helpful. Wow. Okay, so build out so we can have broadband, ACP so we can afford broadband, and then the Digital Equity Act so we know how to use it, are all at stake.
Absolutely.
In 2024. All right, Avery, pinging back to you, what are the priorities of National Coalition on Black Civic Participation? What are our legislative priorities? And then Dr. Jarvis, I'll be right with you.
Yes, so our legislative priorities, we have signed on in support of the Online Civil Rights Act, which is a model AI legislation that would include equity for race and gender equity throughout the use of AI tools in housing, economic uses, employment, et cetera. Joycelyn and I have been going to congressional offices, building support and advocating for this Online Civil Rights Act.
I love that. And we're also fighting to make sure ACP can be permanently funded.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. And then I think it's fair to say, Joycelyn, you've also been doing work with AI and part of the roundtables.
Yes, and just let me tell you a little bit more about the model legislation. Excuse me. One of the things that it does is it prohibits discrimination. It also prohibits the use of algorithms and AI to defraud in voting. That's very important.
Yeah.
Very important. And also what it does is, because like I said, AI is being used in ways that determine your life and you don't even know it. So you could be turned down for a mortgage loan. You could be turned down for a job and you don't know that AI was used. So it allows for human intervention, so you can say, hey, I didn't get that loan, why not? And a human being can go back in and look at what was used rather than just having the algorithm tell you no. And what I was saying earlier about the bail situation, you could have a person that was arrested 2 times for civil disobedience because they were marching for civil rights, and so they get denied bail, as opposed to the person that got arrested once for carjacking, or it could be some type of gun violence. They'll get bail. The person that was marching, that got arrested for 2 civil rights violations won't, based on the algorithm that says 2 arrests, no bail.
Thank you, Joycelyn. All right, Professor Jarvis, you're going to close us out. So we talked about sort of what is, right? Will you tell us what's coming in the future? What should we be caring about?
That's an easy question.
All right, all right.
Be on your guard.
Okay.
That's number one. I'll ask, just a show of hands, how many of you in this room have used AI in some way, shape, or form? See? That's good. That's not common. Most people haven't had any exposure to it at all. And they might find out about it the first time when they get a card in the mail asking, are you still living at your address? Well, I haven't moved in 40 years. Why are you asking that question? I vote every time. Why are you asking that question? But the question is intended by the AI to remove you from the rolls. And I'm saying that not because I'm making this up, but because the early evidence has shown over and over again that minority communities receive these notices and are excluded from the process.
Yeah, we don't respond to them. I don't respond to that.
Exactly. But,
Right. None of your business.
Well, but that's what's happening, and we have to be aware of it. And so I would argue that part of our mission now is to spread the word on you have to be aware of how AI can affect you. It can affect you at work. It can affect your ability to vote.
Yeah.
It can also affect your ability to have access to different programs, and we could go on. But think of it this way. A machine is determining what you can or cannot do. And if we're not aware of that, and if we're not focused on it, we're going to make mistakes. One quick example is what happened 2 weeks ago when across the country you had notices going out that were supposed to be being said by the president. Joe Biden was supposed to tell you not to vote.
Right.
He didn't make that message. AI made that message. And people listened to it and responded by not voting. They said the president told us not to vote. That's just a start. I could go on, but I'll...
Okay, so AI is really, when we look to the future, that is the thing. Would everyone agree with that? Absolutely. We're concerned about AI. And, you know, this is nonpartisan here, but a lot of people think that Donald Trump has a lot more black supporters than he actually does due to AI. Go ahead, Joycelyn. You're going to close this out.
Yeah, really quickly. There are some AI fake photos that are going out with Donald Trump sitting around a lot of black men and then sitting around a lot of black women. It's a fake photo.
Fact check Friday.
It's a fake photo, and it was put out. We know during the last election, black men, a lot of black men kind of checked out.
Yeah.
So that photo was made really to resonate with black men that, hey, I'm listening, as a way to say, as a way for Trump to say, hey, I'm listening to black men. It's fake.
That's
it's
right.
a fake photo.
That's right. But you know what's not fake? How fabulous this panel is. Let's take a quick photo, and as we do, we want our corporate partners getting ready to talk about what they're doing to close the digital divide.
Joy.
Yes.
While I have this platform,
Lord.
and I'm going to say this because this has nothing to do with AI, but I'm just want to say some space economy, everybody, what we're talking about tech. Start thinking about what you need to do to get involved in the space economy.
Now, Joycelyn, you know you're not supposed to introduce an idea like that
Come on.
into the panel.
And I'm saying this from an economic standpoint because they need everything in space that we use here. We need skincare.
Yes, thank you.
Hair care.
Photographer, we love
food.
We're doing part two of this panel. Part two of this panel. Can I have Michelle Kober from Verizon? Nicole Lazar from Charter Communications. We had a little traffic jam up here. And last but certainly not least, Clint Odom from T-Mobile. Come on down. And let's give it up for Melanie Campbell. Woo! All right. Yeah, we do. I'm going on the other end this time, in part because I love sitting next to my friend Michelle. Okay. So, can everyone hear us? You're talking, you're not hearing us. All right. No, I cheated too. Sometimes you talk with other people talking. I understand. Okay, so Clint, Nicole, and Michelle. Clint, Nicole, and Michelle, if those are not your names, please do not talk. We know that access to broadband internet and quality devices, as we just talked about that in the last panel, improve educational opportunities, economic development, civic engagement, healthcare access in rural and urban areas. Can you just tell me, one by one, what are your companies doing to close the digital divide, and then think about what we're supposed to be doing from your perspective? Who wants to go first? Nicole?
Thinking in the middle, I guess. So Charter is a leading connectivity company. We operate under the Spectrum brand, so you may be more familiar with that. And as a company, we provide voice, we provide internet, we provide wireless services. And we have invested $43 billion in infrastructure build out since 2019.
Wow, $43 billion?
$43 billion. Okay. Of that, we are also undertaking a massive rural expansion effort to build out more than 100,000 miles of cable infrastructure, which would pass about 1.75 million rural homes and businesses. We have been a leading internet connectivity company for low-income families through the ACP program, and prior to that, through our own Internet Assist program, which was something that Charter as a company committed to about 6-7 years ago.
Hold on, can everyone hear Nicole? All right, it's in part because some of y'all are talking. Nicole, you're back.
Okay, so you can praise that. We have been a big supporter of the Affordable Connectivity Program, of getting low-income seniors and students online through programs that help them afford the cost of the internet. We also have a number of philanthropic engagements underway. Our community impact team provides millions in funding through community organizations that provide computers, digital literacy training, workforce development programs. So we've been in this space for many years, serving the community and working to address the broadband access gap, the broadband adoption gap, the broadband affordability gap, as they're called.
Let me ask you a question. Do you have a website where people can find out more about this? I know you're a big website, but like...
Right. Charter.com is our website.
Okay, so charter.com.
But you can also find out more about ACP. I think it's Spectrum/ACP.
Okay.
So those are some of the initiatives that we talk about, what you can qualify for in terms of communities, low-income communities.
This is great, and we can go to Verizon next. And please tell us about your program, but I also want to know, so we just heard that we might lose ACP. Yeah. What happens then?
Right. Well, that's why I wanted to, and we have 10 minutes as very clear on this timer, but Verizon does way too many things for me to list here, and I can just sit here as a black woman in the Black Women's Roundtable community and say that I'm very proud of the work that we do, and I'm proud of this company that I work for. But the affordable connectivity, the word that I have not heard associated with that program yet today that I want to emphasize for you all is the word free. The Affordable Connectivity Program makes in most cases, that broadband service for the household absolutely free.
We love
free is huge, obviously, and there are 23 million households that are going to lose this benefit. There are more households signed up for the Affordable Connectivity Program than there are for SNAP. Food. Okay, so that is why this is so important. And so today we've been talking about calls to action. The call to action is to save ACP. And we need to have all sorts of outreach to our community leaders, to legislators. This is something that has to come from Capitol Hill, come from the White House, and there has to be so much of a groundswell of we must save this program. 23 million households doesn't even account for all of the people in each of these households that is benefiting from a free broadband service. So there are millions and millions upon millions of people who are going to lose this benefit in April. That's now.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Michelle is efficient. She's like, I'm jumping to the end. But let me ask, if people want to find out about the programs that you have that they can take advantage of?
So for us, the ACP program, if you are eligible in the footprint for FiOS, Verizon FiOS, which is our home broadband, it's FiOS Forward, and that is where you can get your free ACP service. It also applies to wireless. So wireless is your cell phone. You can use ACP for your cell service as well. So this information is online. Just Google
Verizon.
I'm not going to say Google.
Oh, that's right.
Do a search for the Affordable Connectivity Program, and you can find out how you can sign up and how you can spread the word.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Michelle. I'll be back to you. Clint, what does T-Mobile have for us? And go ahead and do what Michelle said and jump to the end. What do we need to do?
The one thing we learned, one of the many things we learned during the pandemic, is that internet connection is absolutely, positively necessary. Our kids couldn't learn unless they had broadband. You couldn't get a doctor's appointment and see a doctor unless you had a smartphone you can put in front of you and talk to a doctor. There were people who were able to keep their good jobs and keep it going because they had a broadband connection at home. Now, for African Americans, during the pandemic, what we learned is only 1 out of 5 black families even had the ability to work from home. And we hope that over time, that number increases because we may see another pandemic. We may see another movement where people go to work at home and or a hybrid, some combination of going into a workplace and working from home. So we're not talking about something that's nice to have. We're talking about something that's absolutely positively a necessity. So the programs that you're hearing about today, these are lifesavers, these are life changers, these are the ways that you improve your finances, you improve your health, and be entertained as well. There's some things online that are worth considering, some I would say stay away from. T-Mobile.
You're not a bit, you don't do.
I've got 4 kids, so I'm probably guilty of some of it myself. But I think it's been said, when you're visiting these Capitol Hill offices, when you're talking to your members of Congress, surprise them by saying, hey, I want to talk to you about ACP, the Affordable Connectivity Program. $14 billion was set aside for this program, and it's about to exhaust. So I hope that you all get involved and realize this is not just a nice to have, but it's a must have. A recent survey went out, and it's something like 67% of the people who subscribe to the Affordable Connectivity Program said they wouldn't have an internet connection if it wasn't for this program. Yeah. We can't go backwards, folks. We got to go forward.
That's right. And I think what one of the panelists said at the previous panel is right. We had to fight to get people sometimes to pay attention to this program and say that they wanted it. A lot of people thought, well, if it's free, it's not good. We have educated them. They got a product that was free and or heavily discounted and was good. And now we don't want it to go away because that will undermine their trust in these programs. Nicole, we cut you off earlier. I want to go back. Anything you want to add about either your programs or what we need to be doing as activists out there?
So I think my colleagues touched on the importance of ACP, and they said it well. But it's not just important now. You're talking about 23 million households that are on ACP. There are 52 million households eligible. Yeah. And as we roll out broadband, companies like Charter roll out broadband, the equation for bringing out households that are more and more remote and rural has to calculate people being able to actually subscribe and afford to that service that we bring out, or it doesn't make financial sense. So what's needed is upward pressure as this $42 billion investment that the country is making in internet rolls out, as Danielle mentioned. Now we need to have that upward pressure so it's not just one party and it's not just coming from Washington, D.C. It's all of the communities that will benefit, contacting their local electeds, contacting their state senate, contacting their Congress people, legislators, but putting that upward pressure so that people understand that it's important to renew and extend this program.
That's right.
It impacts not just the internet right now, but the internet that's being built out across the country.
And while it's important to note that Black people are disproportionately using the program, everybody benefits from it. Who are the rest of those people? Many of them are white Americans and people in rural America, and to the extent it impacts the BEAD program, that impacts people all over, including many people in rural America who do not have quality broadband and who may have the prospect of having it. So it's important that we are protecting both. Is that right?
Right.
I know I'm testifying.
And one other call to action here that we shouldn't overlook is $43 billion with a B dollars is being distributed to all of the 50 states and territories.
Can everyone hear Clint?
To $43 billion. And it's going to be laying fiber optics and wireless broadband all over the states. Guess who's going to determine where those dollars are spent? You got it.
That's right.
Your governor. So if you are in a situation where you've got the ear of the governor, I think maybe that's a positive thing.
Maybe that's a positive thing.
If you are in a state with a governor who doesn't really listen to you, other than, you pick the state. You pick the state. We've got some work to do.
Yeah.
We got to make sure that we aren't bypassed again with this really important technology.
Yep. Let it not bypass communities again. And let's make sure that build out occurs in communities that actually need it. And to that one point, I'll let Michelle speak. Sorry, but
Michelle's going to close this out. You go ahead.
One more point in terms of advocacy. Also, just thinking through all of the other agencies that benefit from people being able to access their services online. Some of them are moving to digital only without having to consider whether or not their customers, their clients, are actually able to tap into those services. And the reason they're able to do that is because right now we have programs to help people get on the internet. So holding them accountable for what they're doing to make sure that this affordability option remains as they transition to digital-only services.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Nicole. Michelle, you have the last word.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge Melanie and the work of the National Coalition and all of the work around the country that you all do, and Joycelyn and now Avery, because this room is the power center where we can now spread the message out across the country to address the issues that we've just been talking about, where you're talking about getting ACP extended, when we're talking about making sure that the dollars that are coming from the federal government end up in your communities, in those neighborhoods that you all know are the communities that don't have quality internet, that don't have quality digital education and equity for the residents in those communities. So when the word comes from you all and gets out and upward, eventually to your state and local governments, eventually back to DC, that is where you really will see the movement and the power and making sure that these communities get the service that they need and deserve.
Thank you to our panelists. All right, I'm not sure what's next. If Melanie's in the room, come on up and take a picture with us. I think we do have our charge, though. We're not going to focus just at the federal level. We're going to focus at the state and local level as well. And we're going to go and we're going to make sure that we get broadband in the home, that we have the devices that we need, and that we have affordable programs to cover it. Thank you.